So to get started, the first thing that I want to do is get an understanding of how big my pages are, or how big I want the pages that are going to go in here. These pages are, you might be able to see here, a little bit smaller than the actual cover. So I could measure the cover, but I worry that if I do that, they actually won't fit in here. They'll kind of stick out. And I like this tab system that they have set up, and so I want my future pages to also be able to have some sort of tabs, and so making them a little bit smaller than the actual cover will make it easier to have those tabs in there and not have it stick out past the side. So I'm going to take out one of these pages. I think this one is a pretty good one to start with because it's just the title page, and it's got a 2019 calendar on the back, which I won't use. So I'm actually going to rip this out to get a really good idea of how big my pages need to be. And I'm going to go and cut down some papers so that they will fit in here. Alright, so I've gone and collected quite a few things from my stash. I have a bunch of papers that have been pulled out of other notebooks. Typically, these notebooks were bound, and about, I guess, every signature you're going to have, 2 or 3 pages that are actually glued in that you can't actually use as like a folding signature. So what I do for those is I just rip them out, and because they're single pages, they can actually be, just kind of trimmed down and then cut and put into a spiral notebook or even a disc-bound notebook. So for those of you guys that like to do Happy Planner, you can actually, if you have a punch those and put those in your Happy Planner, or even create a junk journal with rings. So I've got a couple of those. Different styles, different colors, and that doesn't really bother me. I actually want this to look like quite a variety of pages. I've got some note pages here as well from another notebook. Same kind of deal. These are printed stationery pages, and I plan on using a couple of my stationery packs as well. So for those of you guys that use Daiso or have a Daiso near you, they do have these little stationery packs, and these pages are the perfect size. I really wouldn't even need to cut them down, which is really nice. So those could just be punched and put in there. And also, if you've got notepads as well, to-do lists or notepads are perfect for this kind of thing as well. You just pull a couple of pages out and punch some holes. And then the other thing that I have here is just a bunch of random stuff. So once upon a time, whenever you would get those boxes, those photo boxes from Recollections at Michael's, they would come with these. Now I've noticed that they don't really come with these anymore, but I have a ton of them from way back in the day, and I think I'm going to punch some holes in these as well and stick those in there. These are from books that I have deconstructed. These are from some Reader's Digest books, but most of them, that was not a good example, are blank on the back. And so if you just trim it up and punch some holes, you can easily cover this up, and then you've got all this writing space. And then I also have some larger pages. Now, normally these would work really, really well folded in half, and I know a lot of people make their junk journals with pages where the orientation is this way, and they just fold them in half. I really don't like that. I don't know why it bothers me. I'm just not a fan, but these, I could probably get 2 pages out of one of these by going in half, and then I can just cover this up with a piece of paper. So for example, I could use one of these, cut this off, and then stick it on there, and it would cover up the words. And these are just, from some of my journaling fodder books that I have. So I've got quite a few of those. Same thing here with this one. This is from a music book, a musicals music book, where it had information about each of the musicals and then actually had sheet music that went along with it. And this would be perfect to just kind of cut in half, and then I would get 2 pages out of that. I have some old ledger paper that is too brittle to go into books where it's folded. This ledger paper is very, very, very old, and whenever I fold it in half and crease it, it actually cracks and breaks. So I can't use it in any of the journals that I'm making where I need to fold it over to create a signature or a pamphlet. So this is actually just going to get chopped again in half and make some really good writing space. And then I have a bunch of, just notebooks here. This one is a Chinese writing notebook. It's just got a bunch of blank paper and little squares. I thought it was kind of cool. Same thing here. And then I've got a bunch of vintage papers. These are from address books, but these would fit really well. This is a planner as well. This would work really well with some holes punched in it. This is from another little notebook, just some random grid paper. More ledger paper, and then this is, I think, also from the same ledger, and it basically was telling you how you could order like business reply cards, and they had samples, and you could, I guess, mail order these from the same company that created the ledger. Now, in addition to all the stuff in my stash that I am trying to use up, I have these, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have these in your stash as well. They're too small, to be folded over to be used in a book. I have a bunch of 12 by 12 of these as well, which I plan to use, but I bought these originally thinking, all right, cool. These are on the smaller end. They'll take up less space in my craft room. I have really struggled to use them quite a bit, but these are pretty much the perfect size. And they are single-sided, which is kind of but what you could do is you could attach them back to back and then punch holes in them and stick them in the journal. So that is what I plan to do. I have 2 different flourish ones. I've got a carousel. I've got 2 of the Willow Lane. They're 2 different ones. Heritage. Oh, look, another flourish, another Willow Lane. I have a problem. I bought these a long time ago when there was a ton of them at Tuesday Morning, and they were all, how much were they? Let me see. I want to say, yeah, they were like $3 a piece, which was not bad at all. So I scooped a bunch of them up because at the time I didn't have any Maggie Homes. And then I also have this. This was a paper pad, but it's mostly used, you can tell here, they're using it as decorative pages in a planner. And these would also be a really good size to just stick in there, and they're really pretty. I have a larger one as well that's supposed to be used for wall art, but I can chop that up as well and stick that in there. Now, something that I'm also planning on sticking in there is a few envelopes. This is one that I made for a project. I'm trying to remember. I think this was for Pop Fizz Paper's Crafty Camp, showing you how to make an envelope out of a 12 by 12 piece of paper really easily. But this can just have holes punched in it and open from the top, or you could even have one. Oh, this is not a good example. Let me see if I can find another one. You can even have one where it's punched on the side and opens up this way. So if you have an envelope punch board or you have a bunch of envelopes kind of lying around, you could punch those and stick that in there as well, so it can hold some goodies or maybe some stickers that you can carry along with you if you are journaling on the go. Alright, so I've gone and grabbed a bunch of different papers to fill this spiral planner up. And I've grabbed even a couple of, decorative elements. I've got some acetate and then also an envelope and some postcards and journaling cards and things like that. I don't have too many of these. I actually wanted to add quite a bit more of these, but once I started getting all of my plain papers punched, I kind of gauged, you know, how thick it would be based on what's already here. So I'm going to hold this up so you guys can see. So the thickness is really close to the same. So I basically took all these papers after I had punched them and kind of held them up here. And then if I hold this up, you can see, well, kind of squeezing them together. But you can see that they are close to the same. Now, this still has more in it, but I am going to be using some of these pages that are already in this as well. So I didn't want to have the same amount of pages. Also, whenever I journal, I tend to add a lot of stuff and crap to my pages. So I wanted to make sure that I have room to do that. I don't want this to get too thick. What I could always do if it starts to look that way is pull some of these pages out, but I'd really rather not. You know, I'd really rather use them and recycle them. So it's just a variety of pages. I've got some lined paper here. I've got some paper out of a notebook. This is vintage address book pages. Let's see what else. I've got some excuse me, some note paper here, some additional lined paper here from a different journal, and this is more of a white where this is cream. This is some grid paper. I've got some ledger paper, more of that list-taking note paper. This is from an old planner, a vintage planner, and then this is, let's see, this is stationery from Daiso, little birds on it. And it basically just repeats. I set everything out on my table. This is from Kiki K. It's some stationery. I set these out on my table and then just kind of like rotated the papers that would go in there to make sure none of the papers that are back to back will be the same. So got a nice variety here. They're all different shapes and sizes. And then I'll be adding these in random places as I go. And instead of punching them so that they go like this, the planner's actually wide enough so where they can go in like that. And some of them can even kind of go like on the same page. So they will stick in there like that. So I'm just going to start pulling my rings apart. So I'm going to go to the back and let me zoom you in really quick. Okay, so we're going to be taking our rings apart and we want to do it very, very gently. I want to make sure that the rings actually stay in here. I could take them all the way out and then just rebind it, but I would really rather not do that. So I'm just going to pull them apart slightly, and again, so that once I'm done, this can actually go and fit into my bind it all, which I used to punch the holes and kind of put that together. Now this is the first one of these that I'm doing, and again it is a pre-made book, so we'll kind of see how this goes, and hopefully I won't have any issues getting these rings back together. And actually now looking at it, it looks like I am gonna have to take these all the way out because where you put papers and things on is actually on this side, so I actually need to turn the coils this way and kind of pull it out, but that's okay because I can restring it back through this back part here. And I'm just going to kind of gently turn this so that it starts to come out of there. Get turned under here. Alright, and then just very gently these will come off on the other side. Slowly but surely. Alright, and there we have it. There is our coils. Alright. So I'm just going to start stringing all this stuff back on here, and then I'll see you at the end of that. so now that I've got all of my papers on there, and you guys saw me kind of struggle with that a little bit, and I have a feeling this next part is going to be even more of a struggle. We'll see. I'm going to clip all of these together so that they don't get in the way while I'm trying to, I guess, restring this onto the cover. And that'll kind of keep everything from sliding around on the coils while I thread it through here. So I'm not sure how well this will come across on camera, but basically I'm going to take this first part here and string this side through this hole and this hole so that the opening will face this way. Once the book is closed, it'll be between this and this. Okay, all right, so here we go. Okay, so I think it's safe to say that was the easiest part of the process, and I actually thought it was going to be the hardest part of the process. They went through there really smoothly. So now all I need to do is I need to rotate my coils so that that opening here isn't too close here and that it doesn't slip through. And then what I need to do is I need to clamp it shut. So again, with like a regular spiral bound, when you're clamping it shut with the Bind It All, your binding is going to kind of like face down in here, and it's just the rings, it's not this back part. So I'm gonna have to play around with this to kind of see, you know, how I can get it to fit. And I'll have to measure my coil size and kind of, I probably should have done that before I pulled it apart, but I'm gonna have to measure this and kind of guesstimate, you know, how far I need to move this so that it will clamp the coils closed tightly. Let's see how that came out. Okay, so that did not work at all. So what I might have to do is just kind of manually push these together, which is okay. It's not too bad. I do want to make sure that I'm gentle and not ripping the paper on the back of the cover back here. Let's see, you know what? Let's try this one more time. Let me adjust this so that it's facing down. And I think this back cover here is not level, as you can probably see. All right, so let's try this again. And you know what? Let's move this in just a little bit to 7/8 as opposed to just an inch. Let's see if that helps at all. All right, so let's see. So that actually helped quite a bit, actually. So I used the word actually twice. So it looks like, let's rotate these a little bit so you can see. It looks like that worked really well, especially in the middle. I'm probably going to reclamp these sides. I need to move these down, but it looks like it clamped it really tight. So let's adjust these binder clips. I could probably even take them out at this point, but I'm gonna wait to do that. All right, and then this needs to rotate kind of facing down like that. Or facing up in this case. I'm sorry the lighting is so bad today, guys. It's very cloudy outside. We've had really beautiful sunny weather for a while, and now all of a sudden it decides to get super cloudy. All right, look at that. Nice. Okay, and so now I can take these off like this. And this can rotate around, and there we go. We have a brand new junk journal planner. If you wanted to do a planner, it won't be for me, it'll be a junk journal, but we've got all those pages. Now, you guys might have seen as I was loading them on to the rings, or the coils, there were a couple of pages that I found that were like back to back that shouldn't have been back to back. You know, there were a few places where there was the same page side by side, which I didn't want. And a couple of pages that I took out because I like the yellow, but I didn't really like this orange and blue combination. Not really a fan of orange, as most of you guys probably know, because I've probably said it before. But I took those out. And so this ended up being a bit smaller than I originally intended, but I am okay with that because this is going to be a personal journal, and if you guys have watched any of my other journal videos, you know that I add a ton of crap to my pages, and it's gonna get thick. And so even though right now it's pretty thin, by the time I'm done, it'll probably be about here, okay? I am gonna leave this on here. This is pretty loose, so I think it'll be a good closure because it's not super tight to begin with like the typo journal that I'm currently using. So once I get going, this will be pretty good at keeping it together. Okay, so now that I've got the inside all done, I am going to start taking off all these stickers, and I'm gonna decorate my cover so that I cover up this here. And you know, there's a good chance that we'll probably also do something here on the inside. I'm not really a big fan of this this end paper here. So that's up next.